Hi, I'm Lucia Panotti from the Open University. This slideshow is an introduction to the notions of transformation and justification in problem-oriented engineering, or PO in short. Transformation and justifications are two of the basic building blocks of PO, and they are closely linked, and that is why I'm presenting them together.